Welcome to the Lost Chronicles Vault. Step inside with us, won't you?
Let that heavy door creak shut.
Feel those echoes around you. Today we're tracing just an incredibly complex path.
How a local tremor really in the Balkans.
Exploded into the First World War, engulfing all of Europe. It's almost hard to fathom.
It is. And we're working from some really insightful analyses today, historical accounts, trying to piece together how it all escalated so fast.
Focusing on those initial sparks.
Exactly. The descent into global war.
And it's set against this backdrop, the Belle Epoque. This time of glittering innovation, optimism.
For some, anyway.
Right, that's the crucial point our sources make. It was progress for the few, grand balls, sure, but beneath that,
Widespread poverty, real hardship, driving people to emigrate just to find enough to eat. America, Australia.
far away from those glittering salons. And under that surface, conflicts were brewing.
Tangling up, feeding into each other.
Like those Russian nesting dolls you mentioned.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Internal issues within empires, big geopolitical clashes. They were all linked.
Not separate problems at all.
No, interconnected. A really fragile situation.
So our mission today is to try and untangle that web. The motives, the alliances, the awful miscalculations.
Pull out the key insights, maybe some surprising facts along the way.
Okay, let's start with the big players, the clash of empires over the Balkans.
Right, you've got these two powerful ideologies colliding right there. First, Pan-Slavism.
Russia's ambition.
Yeah, Russia wanting to unite the Slavic peoples in the Balkans, bring them under its wing, shared ethnicity, shared Orthodox religion often.
Well, it wasn't just politics then.
No, it tapped into deep cultural stuff, a sense of belonging for groups feeling pushed aside in bigger empires.
Okay, so Pan-Slavism, encountering that.
Pan-Germanism, that's Austria-Hungary mainly, wanting to expand its influence.
As the Ottoman Empire weakened.
Precisely, filling the vacuum. And they had Germany backing them up, that famous Nibelungen loyalty.
The Nibelungen loyalty. That sounds intense.
It was a really strong Germanic alliance, basically saying, we stand together no matter what. A profound commitment.
And the Balkans itself. Why there?
Strategically vital. It's the land bridge, isn't it, between Europe and Asia?
So prime real estate for empires competing.
Absolutely. And the Ottoman decline just turned up the heat on that competition.
Which brings us to the Ottomans. They weren't just passively falling apart, were they? There was internal stuff happening too.
Oh, definitely. The Young Turks Rebellion. That was huge.
Against the old Sultanate.
Right. They wanted to ditch the old creaking empire and build a modern Turkish nation.
And Germany liked this.
Germany saw an opportunity. The Young Turks wanted a modern army, German style. It made them sort of natural allies against shared rivals.
Even if Germany was traditionally closer to Austria-Hungary, that seems complicated.
It was complicated. Germany was playing a strategic game. Supporting the Young Turks helped counter other powers. Plus, remember, Turkey had its own internal issues.
The Arab revolts, yeah, we touched on that before.
All adding to the instability.
Yeah.
Shifting alliances, everyone looking out for number one.
So the big powers are circling, the Ottomans are in turmoil, and then the Balkan nations themselves step up. The Balkan Wars, 1911, 1913.
A critical prelude, almost like a dress rehearsal, as you said.
The Balkan League unites.
To push the Ottomans out of Europe, which they largely did.
But peace didn't follow.
Not at all. Kicking out one power just created a vacuum for new fights.
The victors started fighting each other over the spoils. Greeks, Southern Slavs, fighting over Macedonia.
Brutal stuff. It really showed that volatile mix. Fierce nationalism and big power opportunities.
Which leads to that term, Balkanization.
Yeah, basically carving up a region for geopolitical gain. Often along ethnic lines, but, messy. Creating more problems sometimes.
Deliberately fracturing it. So what was the situation inside the Balkans? Who were all these groups?
It's incredibly complex, a real tapestry. You have Greeks, Bulgarians, Serbs with lots of Serbs living in Bosnia-Herzegovina and Croatia too. Then Croats, also with population spread out. Slovenes, Macedonians, Montenegrins, some living within Serbia's borders.
Wow.
And other southern Slavs, including many Muslims like Bosniaks and Herzegovinians. It's a patchwork with groups overlapping.
Not neat borders at all. And you mentioned enclaves.
Right. Communities living outside their main national area, pockets of one group surrounded by another.
Recipe for tension.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And add to that, every group had its own history, its own memories of past glories or perceived injustices. Resentments ran deep.
Like Serbia's dream of a greater Serbia.
Exactly. They wanted to include places like Bosnia-Herzegovina, But Croatia has similar ideas. Bulgaria, too. Everyone wanted their own bigger state.
Clashing ambitions, a real tinderbox.
Definitely.
And then Austria-Hungary drops a match, 1908, annexing Bosnia-Herzegovina.
A huge moment. They'd been administering it since the Ottomans pulled back. Everyone sort of assumed it was temporary.
But then they just took it outright.
Yeah. A massive betrayal for many Bosnians who hoped for independence. And internally, the Austro-Hungarian Empire was creaking, the old emperor. This was an assertive move.
And for Serbia, a direct hit to their Greater Serbia plan.
A huge blow. A large territory they considered theirs was now officially Austrian.
And Russia. They were Serbia's traditional protector.
They didn't act militarily. They were still weak after their 1905 revolution. But our sources stress this is the last time they'd stand by.
It just banked up more resentment for later.
Absolutely. It showed how these nationalistic power plays were just making everything more unstable, ignoring the wider European picture.
Which leads us right to Sarajevo, 1914, the spark.
You had these nationalist groups emerging like the Serbian Black Hand. They had links to the Serbian military. It was a climate of, political violence.
And the target, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne.
Killing him wasn't just murder. It was an attack on the Habsburg dynasty itself, the very core of the empire. Hugely symbolic. Terrifying for Vienna.
And Austria-Hungary's reaction wasn't about justice for the individual.
Yeah, no. They saw Serbia as the sponsor, state-sponsored terror.
So their demands were extreme.
Totally. They basically demanded Serbia cease to exist as an independent nation. Not just punish the killers, but dismantle the state as retribution.
Even though Serbia tried to appease them.
Desperately. Offered to hand over suspects, apologized. Austria-Hungary rejected everything.
Why? Just revenge.
Revenge, yes, but also opportunity. They wanted to crush Serbia and expand further. Look at the railways they were building in the region. It points to long-term ambitions.
They were blinded by the chance to settle scores and grab land.
And they didn't think through the consequences, the dominoes that might fall.
The alliances. Okay, so this is where it all starts to unravel incredibly fast.
Austria-Hungary thinks, okay, quick war with Serbia. Russia sat out last time. They'll sit out again.
Big mistake.
Huge. Russia had to act this time. Its influence in the Balkans, the Tsar's whole imperial project was on the line.
It's in Germany. They stick with Austria-Hungary.
Unwavering. That Nibelungen loyalty again. Pan-German solidarity. What happens to Austria happens to us.
So Russia mobilizes.
Just to support Serbia initially, trying to pressure Austria without directly threatening Germany.
But Germany sees any Russian mobilization as a threat.
To them, mobilization was war, essentially.
Yeah.
Especially with Russia on their border. The alliance system clicked in. An attack on my ally is an attack on me. So Germany mobilizes too, fearing a two-front war.
It's just this cascade of triggers and miscalculations, everyone thinking the war would be short.
Underestimating their opponents was key. Austria-Hungary thought Serbia would be a pushover. David versus Goliath, but Goliath wins easily.
But that's not what happened.
No. The elderly Serbian king gave this incredible speech, rallied the troops. They put a ferocious resistance.
Really? The Serbs held them off?
Surprisingly well in the beginning, yeah. Halted the initial Austro-Hungarian advance. It was completely unexpected and bought vital time.
Wow. Okay, meanwhile, Germany has its own plan. The Schlieffen Plan.
Right. Avoid a two-front war. How? Hit France hard and fast through neutral Belgium and knock them out before Russia gets its massive army fully ready.
Invading a neutral country. Bold.
Desperate times, they thought. And across Europe, people were actually enthusiastic about war.
Hard to imagine now.
But they thought it'd be over by Christmas. A grand adventure. You had guys from Australia, New Zealand, forming the ANZAs, traveling halfway across the world to fight.
Why such enthusiasm?
There's this glorification of war, of nationalism. Across different ideologies too, socialists, imperialists, nationalists, many saw violence as cleansing or necessary. They were blind to the horrors to come.
And once those troop trains started rolling,
it was almost impossible to stop them. Mobilization in 1914 was basically an irreversible commitment to war.
So Belgium, caught right in the path of the Schlieffen Plan.
Just unlucky geography, really. The easiest route for Germany to flank the French defenses.
But Britain had guaranteed Belgian neutrality.
For a long time, yes. Since Napoleon's era, almost. Protecting Belgium was key to British security, keeping a major power off those channel ports.
So Germany invading Belgium automatically brought Britain in.
That was the trigger.
Yeah.
Britain honored its pledge, but also protected its own vital interests.
Germany must have expected a quick win in France too, right? Like the Franco-Prussian War.
They did. They were thinking of Sedan, 1870, one big decisive battle, and it's over.
But again, the unexpected happens. The Marne.
The Battle of the Marne.
Hmm.
And this almost legendary moment, the taxis of the Marne.
Parisian taxis taking soldiers to the front line.
Yeah. It sounds incredible, but thousands of French troops were rushed to the front by Paris taxis, the first major use of motorized transport in war like that.
And it worked.
It helped. That reinforcement was crucial. It halted the German advance just short of Paris.
So the quick victory plan failed for everyone.
Completely. And the result? The armies dug in.
Trench warfare.
Yes, on the Western Front, mainly in France, this static, brutal, grinding warfare that would define the next 4 years.
And the war center shifts completely away from the Balkans.
Right. France becomes the epicenter of the slaughter. Battles like the Somme, Verdun, unimaginable carnage, all stemming from those tangled roots in southeastern Europe.
So looking back, it's this terrifyingly complex web. Balkan nationalism, imperial dreams, terrible assumptions, unexpected heroism and resistance.
All twisted together, transforming that regional crisis into a global catastrophe.
And the irony. The Balkans. This area may be seen as peripheral by some in the grand European capitals.
Becomes the drain, like you said, where all the optimism of the Belle Epoque just vanishes, swallowed by unprecedented suffering.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, how a conflict somewhere seemingly over there can spiral outwards with such devastating unintended consequences.
And how the systems designed for security of the alliances actually became the mechanism for widespread destruction.
What are the lessons we can still draw from that today? About nationalism, about rigid alliances. Something for all of us to reflect on.
Indeed. Those echoes from the past are still relevant.
Thank you for joining us in this chapter, and never stop opening the vault.
And if you found this exploration valuable,
Please do subscribe to the channel. We'll be back soon, opening another chronicle from the vault.